Hello students, this video is going to be about independent clauses. Let's see some characteristics of independent clauses. Independent clauses are those clauses which are capable of conveying a complete meaning. They are clauses which can stand alone as independent ideas, and they are not necessarily part of a longer structure. Independent clauses are always finite. In brief, this means that independent clauses contain verbs which specify tense or modality. In the case of tense, finite verbs always show either a state of being or an action in any time tense. In the case of modality, verbs which show modality are composed or are made by modal auxiliary verbs plus infinitive verbs. The last characteristic is that independent clauses perform speech-act functions. There are four main reasons why speakers have a desire for communication, and those are to give information, to ask for information, to ask someone to do something, or to express an attitude or an opinion regarding a topic in specific or regarding towards something. Now we're going to see these speech act functions. In the first place, when we want to inform something or we want to give some information to a speaker, we use declarative clauses and we express ideas by using statements. If what we want to do is to get information or to inquire information from somebody, from a speaker, we use interrogative clauses and we require that information by using questions. When we want to get something from someone, we use imperative clauses and we ask somebody to do something by using directives. And finally, when we want to express an opinion or an attitude towards a topic, we use exclamative clauses. And we show our appreciation regarding that topic by using exclamations. Now we're going to see these four speech act functions in detail. Let's begin with declarative clauses. As we said before, declarative clauses convey information in the form of statements. And as regards the structure of declarative clauses is composed by a subject and after a verb. Here we have two examples. The little boy is happy and he must be Annie's brother. In the first example, we can see a subject, which is the little boy, and a verb that is conjugated in present tense and is giving us information related to the state of being of the subject. In the second example, we can see this finite verb shows modality. Here we have a subject, which is he, and a modal auxiliary verb must, followed by the infinitive form or the base form of the verb be. Interrogative clauses, on the other hand, are a bit different from declarative clauses. They are expressed in the form of questions and they inquire information or they require a linguistic response or a reply from the addressee. As regards the structure, here we also have a variation because interrogative clauses require subject-verb inversion. That means the verb will be placed first and after the verb we have the subject of the clause. Another characteristic of interrogative clauses is that some of them begin with an initial WH word. And finally, we can say that there are three major types of interrogative clauses, which are the following. The major types of questions are WH questions, yes-no questions, and alternative questions. Let's begin with WH questions. Here we have a list of some WH questions. See that all of them begin with the WH word, and these are also called open-ended questions because they do not require a yes-no answer. They need more information than a yes-no answer. WH questions are used to elicit information from the addressee to ask for information, and they elicit a missing element in a clause. Let's see in the first example, who is calling? Who replaces the subject? So the answer for this would be, for example, Mary is calling. Mary replaces who in this case. In the second example, what do you mean? Let's see an example. I mean, you are lying. So, you are lying would be the direct object in that clause. Who are you talking about? I'm talking about Mary. Mary in this case would be the prepositional object or the complement of the preposition, that it's another way to call it. In the case of how was your trip, Nick, we can answer it by saying it was nice. Was is a copular verb, so what it comes after copular verbs and linking verbs is called subject predicative. Subject predicative is another way to call a complement. From now on, we're going to use that term for complements, subject predicative. In the fifth example, the focus of the question goes straight to the photos we are going to look at. So we're going to give information related to the photos. When did you see Mark? I saw Mark yesterday. In that case, we are focusing on an adverbial, a time adverbial. Why did you buy that? In this case, we are placing the attention on the reason why we have bought something. I bought it because I needed it. And in the last example, how old is Wendy? How old is Wendy? We are giving specific focus on the word old, which is in this case an adjective. In the case of yes-no questions, the addressee is expected to answer with a truth value, either for yes or for no. Here we have some examples. Would you like to go to the movies tonight? Can I help you with that? And you will write. In these three cases, the addressee is asked to give a yes or a no answer. See, besides that, in the last example, you are right. There's a case of ellipsis at the beginning, in initial position, let's say. There's ellipsis of the verb be. Are you all right? This is very common for yes-no questions. The last type is alternative question. And whenever we use alternative questions, we give the addressee various options to choose from. Are we eating in or out this evening? Will they buy a house or rent somewhere? Are you coming or not? Additionally, see that in these cases of alternative questions, we also have used ellipsis and structural condensation. In the first example, are we eating in or out this evening? We have ellipsis at the beginning of the second clause, the second alternative question. Are we eating in or are we eating out this evening? The same happens in the second example. Will they buy a house or will they rent somewhere? In this case, we also have ellipsis here. This is textual ellipsis because we have the information in the previous question. And in the last one, we have an example of structural condensation. Are you coming or not? Not is replacing the structure aren't you coming. Question tags require a special distinction in this category because although they contain a finite verb, they also need a declarative clause or a previous statement in order to complete its meaning and be functional. For example, if we just have isn't she, we lack of previous information to know what about that structure. Let's see this example. She's so generous, isn't she? In that case, that question tag has meaning and it's functional because of the previous statement or the previous declarative clause. We're going to see question tags in detail in the following topic, which is dependent clauses. Moving on to imperative clauses. Imperative clauses are directives, or what we commonly know as orders or commands, We commonly use them to urge the addressee to do or not to do something. Imperative clauses are verb structures which are formed by the base form of verbs or the infinitive forms without to. Besides, imperative clauses lack a proper subject, but we know that the implied subject is the second person singular you. There's a special type of imperative clause, which is the structure let's. It is composed by the verb let and us in the contracted form. So let's, it's a contraction of let us. And in general terms, this structure is used to suggest an imperative or a directive in which both speaker and the addressee are included. Finally, we have the use of vocatives. Vocatives are also a special case of imperative clauses where we use a subject-noun phrase to identify the person which is going to perform an action. In the first example, don't take the car, go on your bike, we have a simple imperative clause that is a directive in which we have that verb structure without subject. In the second example, let's get out of here, we have the construction or the special case for let plus us in the contracted form. And in the last example, Melissa, take those things away, we have the use of a vocative where Melissa is the subject noun phrase used in order to identify the person who is going to perform the action. To finish, let's talk about exclamative clauses. And exclamative clauses use the form of exclamations to show the speaker's opinion, attitude, or appreciation regarding a specific topic. In respect to the structure, exclamative clauses begin with an initial WH word, and after that we have a subject-verb structure, the common one we have seen in declarative clauses, and they may finish with an exclamation mark, but not always the exclamation mark is placed at the end of the clause. In the following examples, we can see that we have used some exclamation marks, at least in two of the examples, but not necessarily all exclamative clauses must contain an exclamation mark. They can function properly without an exclamation mark. Besides, see that how is also included in the WH word categories. We're going to see these later in dependent clauses too. Okay, students, that's the end of this video. As a piece of advice, whenever we have to analyze independent clauses only, think about these four main speech act functions we were talking about previously. Consider the context. Is this clause giving me information about something? Is this clause asking me something? Is this clause giving the speaker's opinion towards a topic? Is this clause giving me an order? So in order to analyze independent clauses properly, try to contextualize the clause and see and think about these four speech act functions. Okay, students, that's all for this video. Any doubts or if you need further information, please contact me. See you soon.